The kitchen light is thin and tired, a single bulb that makes the calendar on the wall look like a roadmap of missed chances. You sit at the table with envelopes spread like small, accusing flags, bills, reminders, decisions you promised you'd make next month. Outside, the neighborhood hums with ordinary life, a dog barks, a truck drives by, someone laughs. Inside, your chest tightens like a hand squeezing a coin you can't quite reach. You tell yourself to be practical, to tighten the belt, to wait for the right break. The voice of scarcity is patient and persuasive. It knows your name. Listen. There is another voice too, softer at first, like footsteps in a room you thought you knew by heart. It has no hurry. It speaks with the quiet authority of someone who has walked the path and returned. There is a version of you who already lives in abundance, I say, and you look up, surprised, because in your world abundance feels distant, like a holiday memory. Not someday, I continue, as the camera of your mind pans over the kitchen table and lands on a small plant pushing through a crack in the sink, not in another life, right now. She is patient, steady, and remarkably ordinary in her habits. She sleeps, pays bills, negotiates, invests in herself. The difference is not luck. It's alignment. I sit across from you at that table, hands folded, no judgment in my face. The law of attraction is not a wish list, I tell you. It is a mirror. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are emotionally tuned to. Fear calls fear. Confidence calls opportunity. Your nervousness tightens the world, your expectation loosens it. You can feel the logic settling like warm tea. Somewhere in your chest a stubborn hope wakes up. A test will come, of course, offers that look too good to be true, small setbacks that feel like confirmation of an old story. But first we must answer one question together: what belief about yourself is keeping you from the prosperous version of you? If this resonates, tap like if you're ready to walk this path, subscribe and stay with me. Tell me below, what belief about yourself is limiting your financial growth right now? When you're ready, we'll step out of this kitchen and into the call that changes everything. You sit at the kitchen table as dawn softens the edges of another long night, a stack of envelopes, a coffee gone lukewarm, the faint hum of a refrigerator. I hear the small, familiar voice inside your head, sharp, precise, practiced, telling you to be careful, to settle, to accept what's available. This is who you are, it says. You don't take risks. You can't afford dreams. Those words land like lead, they shape the posture of your hands, the shallow rhythm of your breath. They are not truth. They are a strategy your smaller self learned to protect you from pain. Listen, wealth never arrives simply because you want it. It responds to the way you feel. The law of attraction is less a magic wish and more a mirror. When you are anxious, cramped, and always braced for loss, you radiate the exact frequency of scarcity. When you are calm, confident, and expect progress, you become an open channel for opportunity. Imagine two versions of you in the same street, one scanning for threats, the other scanning for doors. Which one notices the invitation? Which one negotiates for a better price? Which one invests in growth without apologizing? The difference is subtle, internal, and entirely behavioral. You are not left alone in this. I appear not as a rescuer but as a cartographer of your inner landscape. Together we name the limiting beliefs, the ledger entries of fear that have been written over and over until they feel permanent. I must work harder than everyone, you whisper. I don't deserve abundance, you confess. Each confession is a doorway if you choose to step through it. We test them gently. What would you do if loss were not the final answer? How would you speak to a bank manager, a client, a partner, if you already moved from prosperity inside? The moment of choice arrives in small, practical acts, rewriting a sentence in your mind, making a firm decision with your voice, placing $1 intentionally as an offering to possibility. Will you meet the tests that keep you small, or will you let this new alignment take root? If this resonates, tap like to signal you're ready. What belief about yourself is holding your finances back right now? Stay with me, and next, we walk through the first real test that asks you to act like the wealthy version of you already is. You sit at the kitchen table under a small lamp, envelopes fanned like fallen leaves, the house quiet except for the clock that seems to measure doubt. I watch you breathe, slow, uneven, and I hear the old voice in your head, you don't deserve this, you don't know how, you've tried before and it failed. That voice is familiar. It has history. It kept you safe once, but tonight it is the thing keeping you from stepping into a room you already own in another life. Who are you when the fear isn't speaking? I ask, and in the hush you remember a different answer. There is a version of you who pays those bills without tension, who sleeps with plans instead of worries. She is not a fantasy, she is a part of you, a truth waiting for permission. The law of attraction isn't a magic lottery. It responds to the emotional frequency you live in. Wanting without feeling is like turning the key in a locked door that never opens. Outside, rain taps a steady rhythm, exactly the kind of small persistence that becomes practice. Today's test arrives disguised as a phone call from a creditor, a friend's nervous laughter reminding you of old promises, an inner urge to fold and accept the smallness you've been assigned. Meet these tests as you would a stern teacher. Not to punish you, but to show you where you still believe you must be small. Practice like you mean it, I say. So you practice. In the morning you stand tall for 30 seconds and decide that you will ask for what you deserve in the negotiation, that you will invest in a course that stretches your skill, that you will expect slow, steady progress rather than sudden miracles. When your neighbor doubts, you speak from a different place, I'm learning, I'm working, I expect to succeed. Their surprise is not the point, your conviction is. Small wins arrive, a lower interest rate agreed after a calm conversation, a returned email that leads to a paying client, a moment of rest where you feel the possibility of more. Each one is a mirror showing the life that matches this new feeling. Which belief inside you is still shrinking those victories? What single sentence keeps you small? If that question lands, gently tap like and stay. There is a morning alignment I'll walk you through next, a simple ritual that makes the wealthy version of you feel not foreign, but oddly familiar. You sit at the kitchen table under a lamp that hums like an old worry, envelopes splayed like little storms. The mentor's voice, calm, certain, slips into the room as if through the window. There is a version of you who pays these same bills with a relaxed hand. You look up, in your mind's eye she is already there at the opposite chair, steady shoulders, choices made without apology. The film of scarcity on your eyes begins to thin. Outside, a rain-wet street reflects neon from a closed cafe. Inside, you hear your own breath and the quiet possibility that breath can change. The mentor guides you gently, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. Change the inner broker, and the outer accounts follow. You test the idea like a new key in an old lock. First small experiment, you decide how to think about the overdue notice. Instead of dread, you imagine a solution framed with dignity. You call the bank, your voice steadier than you expected. The person on the line responds to confidence, an arrangement appears where none seemed possible hours before. A small victory, but it tastes like sunlight. A scene shifts to a morning where you invest in yourself, a book, a short course, a conversation with a mentor who sees your potential. You pay with intention, not scarcity. The act feels different, not loss, but a planting. In another moment you practice negotiating for the price you deserve, heart pounding, palms steadying as you say, my work is worth this. The other side hesitates and then agrees. Each decision, you realize, rewires expectation. Yet the shadow called limited self still prowls, whispers of not enoughness during a quiet midnight. You meet it directly, who do you serve when you stay small? The question lands and shifts something inward. This is not magic without effort, it is identity work. You begin daily practices, decisive thoughts upon waking, a short meditation of worth, a ledger of small wins. Behavior follows identity, then results follow both. If this stirs something in you, a small like helps others find it. What belief about your finances feels like the heaviest weight today? Stay with me, and next, you will face the tests that either keep you tiny or launch you into that abundant self, and we'll walk through them together. The kitchen light hums over a stack of envelopes as rain threads down the window. You stare at numbers that have lived like shadows in your life, due dates, minimum payments, the quiet tally of what feels insufficient. Your chest tightens and the old voice arrives, smooth and certain. This is who you are. Be careful. Don't risk what little you have. It sounds like family advice, like habit, like every small compromise that kept you safe and small. You almost fold into it. Then there is the other voice, the one you met when the journey began, calm, clear, patient. Listen, it says, as if leaning across the table with a hand on your arm. Abundance does not ask you to become someone else. It asks you to remember who you were always meant to be. You breathe. The rain becomes a metronome for decision. In your mind you replay yesterday's moment, the hiring manager who undervalued you, the friend who laughed when you spoke of investing, the late-night scroll of other people's wins. These are the tests, small collisions designed to reveal whether you will choose the limited self or step into sovereignty. You try an experiment. You pick up the phone and call the client who always shortchanges your time. Your palms are damp, your throat tight, but you speak differently. My work creates that value. I need to be compensated accordingly. The pause on the other end is a little revelation within you, it's a crack in the old story. You feel both afraid and oddly steady. That is the pattern of transformation. Identity shifts first, a tone, a choice, a clear boundary, then the world rearranges to match it. Outside, a neighbor walks by with a toddler and a grocery bag. Inside, the limited self whispers again, cataloging risks like weapons. You answer it kindly, not with force, but with practice, a daily line you say to yourself when panic rises. I am capable of creating and stewarding wealth. Saying it doesn't make every bill dissolve, but it changes how you move toward problems. The tests will come again, often disguised as urgency and doubt. Your work now is small, deliberate acts of alignment, speaking for your worth, choosing growth over comfort, expecting progress. If this moment resonated, gently tap like and tell me below, what belief about yourself is limiting your financial growth right now? Stay with me here. Next, we turn these small acts into daily alignment practices that will reshape your life. The kitchen is quiet except for the soft scrape of a pen and the low hum of the evening radio. Across the table, a stack of envelopes feels heavier than it should. You breathe in, then hear that steady, patient voice, the guide you've met before, asking, not accusatory but kind, what are you aligning with right now? The question lands like a stone in water, ripples of old stories, not enough, too late, I'm not that kind of person, rise and fade. You don't banish them. You notice them, name them, and take a different step. You begin with small, decisive acts. In the mirror, you practice one sentence, I negotiate from value, not fear. Your jaw sets, your shoulders straighten. At your laptop you draft an email to ask for a fairer rate, and your fingers tremble only for a moment before the click of send. On the way to a meeting you repeat an anchor, I am resourceful, each repetition loosens the tightness in your chest. This is not magic, it is rehearsal of an identity. Each small, brave behavior becomes evidence for the mind that you are someone who expects progress. Tests arrive like weather. A friend shrugs and says, be realistic. A bill appears earlier than expected. The ancient voice of scarcity offers a bargain, safety in staying small. You answer not with logic alone but with ritual, 3 decisive thoughts in the morning, a quick negotiation script memorized, a 10-minute investment in learning each afternoon. You hold your feet in the cool grass and imagine the prosperous version of you, how they speak, the choices they make, and you take one action that matches that image. The world responds in whispers before shouts, a client replies faster, the bank meeting runs smoother, an unexpected opportunity unfolds. Inside, the limited self grumbles, then grows quieter as the expanded self builds proof. This is the pattern the guide promised, identity first, behavior follows, results align. If this resonates, tap like and tell me, what belief about yourself is limiting your financial growth right now? Stay with me, the next scene will bring a harder test, where the old stories press for one last surrender and your new identity must stand its ground. You stand in a kitchen where morning light slices through dust motes, a stack of envelopes on the counter like small mountains of obligation. The mentor's voice arrives not as a lecture but as a close confidant, this is where most journeys turn back, she says, watching you trace a coffee ring on a bill. Scarcity isn't about the numbers. It's a story you rehearse. You remember the tightness in your chest the night you refused an opportunity because you were sure you couldn't afford it. That memory is the test this day brings. She guides you through exercises that feel simple and seismic at once. Decide first, she instructs, handing you a pen. Not maybe, not later. Decide. When you write, I am someone who negotiates confidently, the letters look different on the page, a steady, sure. You practice words aloud, I expect fair value, I accept progress. Saying them in your kitchen feels like moving air in a room that had been still for years. The next lesson is a small, brave negotiation. You call a service provider, your voice steadier than you expected. The conversation is a test, an invitation to claim worth. You feel your heartbeat, think of no longer shrinking, and say, what flexibility do we have here? The person on the line responds, and a number slides in that would have surprised your past self. You feel both astonished and quietly delighted, the world answered because you stopped asking like you were owed nothing. She walks you through investing in growth, a short course you can afford, a book that reframes risk, a mentor's minute each morning. Invest in the parts of you that will earn more than money can count, she says. Each small purchase becomes a deposit into your future identity. You rehearse expecting progress, imagining the version of you who sends invoices without apologizing, who accepts invitations because you add value. There are setbacks, a call goes unanswered, an opportunity delayed, and they sting. But the new habit is to return to the internal posture, calm, decisive, generous with expectation. The mentor's final question lingers, which belief about yourself are you ready to let go of? If that lands with you, a quiet light would be welcome, and follow along, there is a deeper test ahead, where these practices meet a true challenge. You stand at the window of a small apartment as morning light draws a gold line across unpaid envelopes. The mentor is beside you, not lecturing but steady, like a lighthouse that has weathered every storm. Wealth responds to who you are feeling, they say, and you feel that sentence settle in your chest. It is no longer a far-off sermon, it is a map. They hand you a simple practice, think decisively for 5 minutes each morning. Not wishful thoughts, but firm choices, I will call that client, I will invest in this course, I will pay this bill with grace. The voice of the limited self rises, what if you fail, and you breathe through it, anchoring each decision with a small physical gesture, pressing your fingertips together as a promise. Later, the scene shifts to a bright cafe where you negotiate for the first time in months. Your palms are warm around the cup, your posture different. The mentor whispers, name your value. Speak it plainly. You hear your own voice, steadier than you expected, stating what you deserve and why. There is resistance, another voice from the past offering discounts and apologies, but you hold the line. People lean in, offers adjust. The world responds when you match your words with a new emotional frequency. At home, you plant a seed in a pot and water it slowly, an image the mentor uses for investing in growth. Money may feel scarce, but investing in your skills, your health, your network is like soil and water. You shift a tiny portion of your budget each month to learning, to a mentor, to a retirement contribution. The small consistent deposits begin to tilt your reality. Each evening you record one progress note, what you decided, what you negotiated, what you invested in. You mark outcomes without judgment and give gratitude for the movement itself. Fear still knocks, but you answer from the expanded self, curious, deliberate, expectant. If this practice resonates, give it a quiet thumbs up and tell me below, what belief about yourself is limiting your financial growth right now? Subscribe to stay with this journey. Next, you'll face the final mirror, the moment where identity and outcome finally meet. You sit at the kitchen table again, but this time the morning light falls differently, softer, as if it recognizes the new script you are reading. Paperwork still rustles, coffee still steam warms your hands, but beneath the familiar worry there is a steadier pulse. You breathe and hear the mentor's voice not as a lecture but as a fact, wealth is not something you chase, it is who you choose to be. That choice moves through your body before it moves through your bank account. A week earlier you would have swallowed the banker's first offer and left feeling small. Today you enter the branch with the same heartbeat but a different posture. You sit, meet the manager's gaze, and say, quietly and clearly, I'm looking for terms that match the value I bring. What options do you recommend? The pause on the other side of the desk is short. Someone who asks with expectation gets treated differently. Numbers are discussed. You negotiate. You listen. You push for the one that honors growth. When the handshake comes, it feels inevitable, like two possibilities recognizing the same future. At home you rehearse boundary conversations with your partner. I will invest in coaching, you say aloud. I will not apologize for choosing growth. There's a small argument, old fear, and then a new line, I'm investing because I know I'm worth it. The words land harder than you expect, and your partner's resistance yields to curiosity. The house that used to echo scarcity now keeps space for plans, a class enrollment confirmation on the kitchen counter, an email promising a new freelance client, a small but decisive transfer into an investment account. The tests remain, temptation to revert, to bargain with safety, but your day-to-day practices stop them like a steady tide. You set an intention each morning, speak your numbers with calm certainty, and celebrate tiny wins as evidence that the prosperous version of you is already living here. You catch yourself expecting progress instead of fearing lack, and opportunities begin to mirror that expectancy. If this landing feels real to you, show it, tap like, and tell me below, what belief about yourself is limiting your financial growth right now? There's one last part of this journey coming, where you integrate these choices into a life that feels inevitable. You stand at the kitchen window where morning pours thin and honest across the counter. There are envelopes, a coffee cooling, the little voice that used to say not enough like an old radio playing the same static. Then, almost without fanfare, you hear the mentor's voice again, not distant now, but close, the way a neighbor speaks over a fence. There's a version of you who already lives this life, they say. She pays her bills before the due dates. He negotiates without apology. They invest in growth because they expect returns. The sound is simple. It lands like light. You remember the tests, that phone call that tightened your chest, the job offer you hesitated on, the investment you told yourself was too risky. Those scenes replay, but now you're in a different body, shoulders relaxed, palms steady. You try a line you practiced in the mirror, I'm ready to receive what matches who I am. The words feel strange and then true. Your breath follows. Your posture follows. Behavior, as if obedient to a new identity, begins to shift. A neighbor knocks and you offer coffee. You speak about a plan, not a fear. In the conversation you find yourself negotiating with calm certainty. The words come easy because you are no longer bargaining from lack, you are offering value from a place of abundance. Money responds to that feeling. The law of attraction doesn't chase your desires, it echoes your emotional state. You now vibrate in a currency that attracts opportunity, not scarcity. Sit with that. Picture a small ritual, 5 minutes each morning naming one financial truth you intend to embody, decisive, responsible, open to growth. Keep it brief, keep it steady. Identity precedes action, action follows, and results inevitably come after. This is not a promise of overnight miracles, but of a steady, compass-like redirection back to who you already are. If this landed with you, tap like and tell me below, what belief about yourself is limiting your financial growth right now? Share it, softly, honestly. If you want the next guided practice, the next map back to your prosperous self, subscribe and we'll meet again with the first 30-day plan to embody that wealth version of you.